Imagine a movie so expensive, so delayed, and so over budget that Hollywood was ready to write it off before it even hit theaters. That was Titanic in 1997, a film that seemed destined to sink before it ever sailed. With a 5-year production, ballooning costs of nearly $200 million, and endless rumors about chaos on set, the buzz around James Cameron's Titanic wasn't excitement, it was disbelief. Studio executives were nervous, critics were skeptical, and insiders whispered that it might be one of the biggest flops in movie history. No one could have predicted that this disaster movie would soon make cinematic history of its own. Producer John Landau, in his posthumous memoir, The Bigger Picture, recalls those tense moments vividly. "Everyone was on edge," he wrote. "We had spent years and hundreds of millions, and it felt like the entire world wanted to see us fail." The Titanic team wasn't just fighting production hurdles. They were battling Hollywood's skepticism. Stories of exhausted actors, freezing water scenes, and an overambitious director spread like wildfire. Even insiders joked that the behind-the-scenes drama was more intense than the actual shipwreck. Then came the turning point, the trailer. Landau emphasized that the first trailer is make or break for any film. It's the one shot to convince audiences and studios that a movie is worth their time. "Those 150 seconds mean everything," he wrote. But with Titanic running over 3 hours long, cutting it down to a trailer was nearly impossible. How do you capture love, tragedy, and spectacle in under 2 minutes? The team eventually crafted a version that stretched to over 4 minutes, double the standard length, and sent it to Paramount executives for approval. The response? Brutal. Landau recalls the head of distribution calling him after watching it and saying, "I saw your trailer and I'm throwing up all over my shoes." That's how dire things looked. The studio hated it. Executives doubted audiences would care about a period romance on a doomed ship, especially with no major franchise tie-in or guaranteed return. But Cameron and Landau refused to give up. They believed in their story, in Jack and Rose, in the grandeur of the ship, and in the emotional core that would ultimately connect with millions around the world. Their gamble paid off. When Titanic finally premiered, it defied every prediction. Critics praised its emotional depth, audiences couldn't get enough, and theaters were sold out for months. The movie became a cultural phenomenon, turning Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet into global stars, winning 11 Oscars and grossing over $2 billion worldwide. What was once called a guaranteed flop became one of the most successful films in history, proving that heart and vision can sometimes outshine even the harshest studio doubts. Today, Titanic stands as more than a movie. It's a lesson in persistence and creative conviction. Landau's story reminds us that even the greatest successes often start with failure, criticism, and risk. The film that everyone thought would sink instead sailed into history, leaving behind a legacy of cinematic perfection. So next time someone tells you your dream is too big, remember Titanic, the film that rose from doubt and disaster to become an unsinkable masterpiece. Picture this. It's 1997, and Hollywood is holding its breath. James Cameron's Titanic isn't just a movie. It's a massive gamble that seems moments away from collapsing under its own weight. With a budget ballooning past $200 million, a record-shattering amount for its time, and a grueling 5-year production filled with tension, exhaustion, and endless rumors, the film was already infamous before audiences even saw a single frame. Industry insiders mocked it as Cameron's folly. Critics predicted it would sink harder than the actual Titanic, and executives at Paramount and Fox grew increasingly uneasy about what looked like a cinematic catastrophe waiting to happen. Few could imagine that the same film would soon make history, not for failure, but for becoming one of the most successful and beloved movies ever made. Producer John Landau captures that era of pressure and doubt perfectly in his memoir, The Bigger Picture. Everyone was tense, he recalls. We had spent 5 years and $200 million, and it often felt like the world was rooting for us to fail. The cast and crew endured months of brutal conditions, freezing water scenes, long night shoots, and a director infamous for his perfectionism. Actors were getting sick, budgets were bleeding, and rumors spread that Cameron had lost control. Entertainment media began predicting disaster, and analysts warned that the film would never earn back what it cost. For everyone involved, it felt like Titanic was heading straight for an iceberg of its own, financial ruin. But then came a pivotal moment that would change everything: the trailer. Landau reveals that the first trailer is often the heartbeat of a movie's marketing campaign. "You only get one chance to grab the audience's attention," he wrote. "Those few seconds can decide whether your film floats or sinks." Creating that trailer, however, was no easy task. Trying to condense a 3-hour and 14-minute epic into a brief preview felt impossible. The story had love, tragedy, heroism, and spectacle. How do you capture all that in under 2 minutes? The team worked tirelessly to edit something that reflected the soul of the movie. But when the final version stretched past 4 minutes, it became a risk even the marketing team was nervous to take. When Paramount executives finally watched the trailer, their reaction was devastating. Landau recalls getting a call from the head of distribution, who said, "I saw your trailer, and I'm throwing up all over my shoes." That brutal comment summed up the studio's fear. They didn't see what Cameron and Landau saw. To them, Titanic was too long, too expensive, and too emotional to connect with mainstream audiences. They doubted the chemistry between Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet, and they worried younger viewers wouldn't care about a historical romance. Still, Cameron and Landau refused to back down. They believed deeply in their vision, in the story of two people whose love transcends tragedy and time. When Titanic finally premiered, it didn't just prove the doubters wrong, it rewrote movie history. Audiences fell in love instantly, returning to theaters multiple times to relive Jack and Rose's story. Critics praised its visual grandeur and emotional storytelling, calling it a rare blend of blockbuster spectacle and heartfelt romance. The film shattered box office records, winning 11 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, and grossing over $2 billion worldwide. Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet became international superstars, and James Cameron cemented his status as one of Hollywood's most visionary directors. What was once seen as a disaster became a defining moment in film history. Today, Titanic stands as a timeless reminder that faith and creativity can overcome even the harshest skepticism. Landau's behind-the-scenes account reveals how passion, persistence, and belief in a story can turn the impossible into the unforgettable. The movie that everyone thought would sink didn't just float, it soared, capturing hearts across generations and proving that great risks can yield legendary rewards. More than 2 decades later, Titanic continues to inspire filmmakers and dreamers alike, showing that sometimes the biggest gambles create the greatest legacies.